Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. It is Wednesday, March 16th. Ian Cameron with you. We may have Jimmy Murphy momentarily as well. It's been a busy time as we approach the trade deadline. He'll try to join us. If not, it looks like it just might be me and you today. Alex, of course, has some repairs going, some work being done in his apartment, a lot of loud noises, so impossible to, be able to get him on the show with all that going on. Andrew's preparing to leave for Las Vegas, so he's busy getting ready for that trip. I believe he departs either later today or early tomorrow, but nevertheless, it might be just a solo mission. That's okay. We've only got 4 games. It'll be a shorter show. Let's start first, though, by thanking everybody for another very entertaining, enjoyable betcast last night with the Ice Guys. Thank you very much, everybody that joined in, everybody that tuned in on YouTube, that contributed in the chat. We appreciate it. It was another fun event. I was hoping I'd do a little bit better with some of the live bets, but than we did, especially late. Florida just having a really lethargic run-of-the-mill performance. They did enough to win, but it wasn't overly impressive against San Jose in the late night hours. That didn't help. But no, we won a few goal scorer props. We did hit Edmonton team total over 1.5 plus 190 in the first period. That was one of the highlights, definitely, of the late night part of the betcast. But the other highlight, of course, as it always is every Tuesday when we have the betcast, is just hanging out with our great viewers and listeners, shooting the shit, watching the games, talking hockey, talking live in-game wagers, and just having a few drinks. That's what it's all about, like a pub bar atmosphere. It's what we try to have with the betcasts every Tuesday night, and definitely I think it kind of has that vibe to it if you watch the show every Tuesday. So absolutely, we thank everybody for joining us on the betcast last night. Those that watched, those that joined us on the stream, thank you very much. And again, we'll have the betcasts every Tuesday night for the rest of the regular season. And we will also have several betcasts during the Stanley Cup playoffs as well. So definitely looking forward to keeping those going. And thanks to those who joined us last night on Tuesday for the betcast. Just briefly looking back on the Tuesday night action. Arizona, very impressive considering it was the tail end of a long road trip. They found a way to win yet again, 6-3 over the Montreal Canadiens. They got badly outplayed, outchanced again, but somehow, some way, they're winning games. That's 2 inside-out final score results, if you will, for Arizona, where they got badly outplayed, outshot by their opponent back-to-back against Ottawa and Montreal, yet they end up victorious in both of those games. And, Lawson Crouse, all of a sudden, hat trick against Ottawa, finds the score board and finds the back of the net as well last night in the victory against Montreal. Rangers, Alex Georgiev in net. So obviously a tougher game than maybe initially thought, but they get past the Anaheim Ducks 4-3 in overtime. We did cash with the Rangers, plus 120. I remember that. Alex B. Smith, who was on the betcast for a bit last night with us as well, he recommended that. I jumped on it as well. Rangers plus 120 against Anaheim, and they ended up winning in overtime. Schmaltz, goal score prop, in that Arizona game. And Keller as well. I had both of them to score, and they both did for the Arizona. And I had Caulfield for Montreal. That was a good goal scorer prop game for me, that Arizona-Montreal game. We saw Washington beat the Islanders 4-3 in a shootout, split with that game. The Islanders fell short. I had them on the plus price. I did have the team total over 2.5 for the Islanders, though, so that cashed, and the full game went over 5.5. So that was a pretty good game, good result for me overall. Nashville 4-1 against Pittsburgh. Pretty good effort from Nashville last night against a Penguins team playing good hockey. Solid win for the Predators. The Vegas Golden Knights continue to struggle. 7-3 loss to Winnipeg. Just an absolutely atrocious road trip for them. Winless on that road trip. Buffalo, Philadelphia, Columbus, and then again Winnipeg losing that game. And they just need to get healthy right now, the Vegas Golden Knights. That's their issue. You just cannot be expected to win a bunch of hockey games when you're missing the kind of personnel they are at the moment. I mean, it is a depleted bunch. We'll see if they get anybody back, any reinforcements returning for them when they hopefully, for their sake, will have some people back against Florida Thursday night, which is their first home game after that road trip, which is not an easy opponent for the Golden Knights in that first game after a road trip. They got goaltending issues. Leonard remains out. Brossoit had a rough night last night for the Golden Knights, got pulled. So you're down to Brossoit and Logan Thompson right now for the Golden Knights. So tough sledding for them at the moment. Like I say, they just need to get people back, because if they don't get anybody back in the next week or two, they could fall right out of the playoffs. Where if they get, I would say the majority of the personnel that is missing right now, if they get those players back within the next 2 weeks, they could once again ascend to being one of the better teams in the Western Conference. That's the wide-ranging scale at the moment that we're dealing with Vegas. So it really is going to depend on health for them, maybe more than a lot of cases here, because of the fact that, again, with Vegas, it's so difficult to accurately and fairly evaluate this team right now. Like, you take the players that are off Vegas off of any team, in terms of impact, top two defensemen, arguably, McNabb and Martinez, multiple top six forwards, three of them, Smith, Stone, and Pacioretty. What are you going to do? It's hard to replace all of that. And Vegas is feeling, and number one goalie as well out. So that's hard to replace all of that. And Vegas is learning the painful way right now, all about that. Boston, a 2-1 win against Chicago. Firmly deserved that win, Boston. Kind of a tough beat if you had the Bruins in regulation. If you decided to go a little safer with the regulation price instead of the money line, that's tough because they probably should have won that a bunch of different times in regulation. But look, it was Marc-Andre Fleury doing what he's sometimes capable of, and that is doing everything in his power to keep his team in a game and give them a chance. And he certainly did that last night for the Chicago Blackhawks in that game, keeping the minute, and Boston wins 2-1. Vancouver beats New Jersey 6-3. That game goes over, which made a lot of us happy, myself included. Colorado with a nice, efficient, solid, sound, structured, just tidy defensive effort against LA. They shut out the Kings 3-0. Florida with the 3-2 overtime win against San Jose. And Edmonton puts their fans, I should say, and their backers through a roller coaster ride of emotions last night against Detroit. Up 4-1 early, that we think they're going to roll to an easy victory. Not always things are easy for the Edmonton Oilers, and boy, did they show that. Detroit got a late goal in the second, made it 4-2, and then all of a sudden, two quick goals early in the third period for Detroit, 4-4. Edmonton actually regains the lead 5-4, and then Mikko Koskinen decides, I'm going to play the puck, which apparently is turning into an absolute unmitigated disaster every time he does, and that resulted in the 5-5 goal. But thankfully, Edmonton rescues themselves late with the go-ahead goal, 6-5, and then, of course, the empty net goal puts it away to make it 7-5. Warren Fogle getting the game winner, and then Kane into the empty net to make it 7-5. But again, that 5-5 goal, Mikko Koskinen, if you're the coaching staff of the Oilers, you got to just sit down with this guy and say, you're not playing the puck now, ever again, after what we've seen. This is now 3 or 4 times Mikko Koskinen has misplayed the puck. He's fumbled with it. He's given it away. He's been caught out of his net as a result of fumbling with the puck and mishandling it with his goal stick. And he has put his team in such a bind multiple times because of that. And thankfully, they rescued Mikko Koskinen from that egregious mistake last night. But, we got to start saying to him, you're not touching the puck anymore. You're not going out of the net and playing the puck anymore. You leave it. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care if they're forechecking forwards on the opposing team are coming in strong on the defense and making it tough for them to make a play. I don't care. You are just so abhorrent and so awful playing the puck. You will not play the puck anymore with your goal stick. Enough is enough, all right? Because this is costing us goals, and it's costing us goals in critical games, in key parts of the game. Seems to be when all of this is happening. So that's what I would say. Let Darnell Nurse handle the puck. Let your defenseman handle the puck. Let Darnell Nurse play the puck. If you're thinking of coming out and playing the puck with your goal stick, let Nurse handle it. Let Evan Bouchard handle it. Let Tyson Barrie handle it. Anybody but you. All right. Stay in the net. Focus on stopping the puck, because clearly you cannot play the puck properly with your goal stick. You can't. Your timing stinks. Your awareness stinks. You panic a little bit, and he hesitates, and that's when these giveaways and these turnovers happen. So enough's enough. I think you got to sit down with him and say, you're not coming out of your crease and playing this puck anymore. Leave it for the defenseman. I don't care what the situation is. Trust your defenseman to make the play with the puck, because clearly you're not doing so when you get that chance. All right, so that's the Tuesday card. Let's move on to Wednesday. We got 4 games on the NHL slate. Let's get it started. We got the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa -130 to -135 home favorites in this game. The total 6.5 here, pretty much across the board. Jackets coming into this game feeling better about themselves. Certainly a nice win against the Golden Knights in their last game. We'll see if that builds momentum for them going to Ottawa tonight to face the Senators. But back-to-back wins for Columbus at home. Minnesota and Vegas, 3-2, 6-4 victories in those two games. Now they get to go to Ottawa, face this Senators team that has lost two in a row, but played well enough in defeat in both games. They actually played pretty even with Chicago. They heavily outplayed Arizona and were in the offensive zone seemingly for most of the night against the Coyotes. But unfortunately, they didn't have as much to show for it. Scott Wedgwood was good in net, and it was one of those nights for the Ottawa Senators where everything that Arizona was shooting at the net was going in against Philip Gustafson, the Ottawa goalie, that night, and it resulted in a 5-3 win for the Coyotes. So we'll see how Ottawa fares here. Can they bounce back in this game? Columbus now trying to keep it going after a 2-game win streak. Anton Forsberg is in net here for the Ottawa Senators, and I bring that up because he used to be in the Columbus organization. So there's always that little incentive that sometimes you want to play well, especially when you play your former team. And Forsberg had a really rough night his last start in net against Chicago Saturday, 6 goals on 28 shots. He was playing pretty solid before that. I mean, 2.83 goals against, 916 save percentage, his overall numbers this year. That's not bad. That's not bad for a guy that's usually been more toward the high 2s, almost 3 in goals against prior to this year. Save percentage a little bit lower and a little bit closer to 900 for his career than it is this year. So, there's no doubt he's definitely played a little bit better. But, right now when I look at this Jackets team, definitely scoring goals, definitely going to be a challenge for this Ottawa team defensively. The Jackets, the last 7 games, they scored 4, 3, 4, 4. They had the shutout loss to the Islanders, but they scored 3 and they scored 6 in the last 2 games that they won back-to-back. I would only look over the total in this game. I lean Jackets a little bit here at the plus price as well. Ottawa, we see them, struggling to find ways to win. I know they beat Seattle in overtime at home, but even in that game, they had a 3-0 lead and they coughed it up, and they had to rescue the game with an overtime victory against the Kraken. So it's been a rough go for Ottawa, 2-7 in their last 9 games. Now you're asking them to be favored at minus 135 here in this game. I don't know if I fully buy into that. Merzlikins, by the way, confirmed to be the starting goalie for the Blue Jackets tonight. Certainly from a prop standpoint, there's a bunch of different ways you can go here. Lion A and Bjorkstrand are certainly the headliners for Columbus as of late and what they've been able to do. 5 points in the last 2 games for Bjorkstrand. He has collected at least a goal for the Columbus Blue Jackets in 5 of the last 8 games. So he's been very good lately finding the back of the net. We know what Patrick Laine has done for this team. He scored against Vegas. Did have a couple of games where he didn't score a goal and did not register a point against Minnesota and the Islanders. But prior to that, and overall, if you stretch it back and look at the last 7 games for the Columbus Blue Jackets, we still have Patrick Laine at 7 points. So he's basically been a point-per-game producer here for the last 7 games for this Jackets team. For the Ottawa Senators, Connor Brown, I think, is someone to keep on going with. Josh Norris as well had a terrific game the other night against the Arizona Coyotes. 2 goals in the loss. He had 2 goals against Seattle. He had a goal and 2 assists when they beat St. Louis 4-1. He has a grand total of 7 points in the last 4 games for the Ottawa Senators. So Josh Norris over 1.5 points. An Ian Cameron special, something that I've been looking at a lot recently with these player points props is the over 1.5. Never mind, laying a juicy number on the prop to just get 1 point for some of these players. Go for that plus number, go for that plus price cash. And you often can get good player points prop numbers for these players to get at least 2 points. And for Josh Norris, it's plus 275 tonight. In some places for him to get over 1.5 points. So I think that's a good bet. Certainly Connor Brown, more so Connor Brown to score a goal in the game tonight. He has been very good lately in terms of finding the back of the net for the Ottawa Senators. You saw what he did against Arizona, scored against them, scored a goal against Chicago. And he's one of those streaky players. Once he gets rolling, I find he scores in bunches. He has those games where he goes several games without a goal, and then all of a sudden he'll go 4 or 5 in a row with a goal. That's Connor Brown right there. So Definitely a good prop game. I like over. I like Columbus as well, plus the price. It's just two teams that are very similar. And in fact, I'd probably favor Columbus slightly in terms of current form. And I'll take them at the plus 115 here in this game against the Senators. And like I said, shop around, make this a prop game because I think there's definitely some good prop opportunities here at your disposal. Yeah, Cole Sillinger's an interesting call there. You're right. Down the lineup, he's another player that, sometimes, he's chipped in rapid succession, as in, he scored like a handful of goals in like a couple of games or something. But here's someone that's now playing on the second line, and even Jack Roslovic. I remember him scoring a few games ago. These are players getting more opportunity. He's coming off a hat trick against Vegas, and now he's playing on that second line for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Roslovic is actually centering the top line for them tonight, it appears, with Lionel and Nyquist. And Roslovic, if you look at him recently, he had a goal against Pittsburgh, goal against Toronto. He's got points in 2 of the last 4, and now he's going to get top line assignment here tonight against Ottawa. So that's going to be opportunity. So you're going to look at maybe those 2 centers for Columbus in some form. Not bad either in terms of options. Sillinger on the second line at the center spot, and of course Jack Roslovic on the top line at the center spot for Columbus. All right, next up, we got Boston and Minnesota. This is your TNT game tonight, Bruins and Wild. We've got Minnesota. It's pretty much even money, actually, both sides in this game, minus 110 with the Bruins and Wild. The total right now, 6 across the board in this game. You look at this matchup here, I do lean to Minnesota a little bit just because you've got the back-to-back situation unfolding here for the Boston Bruins after being in Chicago last night and getting the win that was much more difficult than it needed to be because of the play of Marc-Andre Fleury, who was very good in net last night for Chicago. But Boston finds a way 2-1. It would have been very unfortunate for the Bruins to lose that game because of the way they carried that play. They're now looking for their 4th win in a row. A team that's playing good hockey. Minnesota's not. So this is kind of going against the red hot team and kind of trying to back the struggling team. But it is definitely an advantage for Minnesota in that they've had a couple of days off prior to this game. A chance to really, work on some things in practice, which apparently they've worked to do. Dean Evison looks like he's shaking things up a little bit with his forward group. And Tyson Jost, by the way, acquired from Colorado just yesterday. He is expected to be or a couple days ago, I think that happened. But Tyson Jost expected to be on the 4th line tonight, making his Minnesota Wild debut. He will be centering that 4th line between Nick Bukestad and Brandon Duhaime tonight for the Wild. We're looking at Eriksson Ek centering Foligno and Greenway on the 3rd line. Freddie Gaudreau centering Matt Boldy and Kevin Fiala on the 2nd line. And then Ryan Hartman on the top line centering Zuccarello and Kaprizov. So that's what we're looking at here for Minnesota in terms of line combinations. As far as the Boston Bruins go, a lot of the status quo for them, Marchand Bergeron and DeBrusk remaining the top line. DeBrusk's gone a little bit quiet here these last few games, so that little hot streak he had is kind of tapered off. Taylor Hall, Eric Howla, and Pasternak, the 2nd line. Coyle, Frederick, and Craig Smith. Craig Smith, again, I still think Craig Smith probably worth a look in terms of goal scorer prop tonight. He was off the score sheet last night, but again, he almost scored a goal that ended up being called back because of goalie interference, which I thought was a weak call. We saw it on the betcast last night. The stick barely grazed the top of the mask of Marc-Andre Fleury, and yet they deemed that was enough for goalie interference. But nevertheless, Craig Smith has been contributing. He's been fine in the back of the net. He's been, like I say, right in front of the net is where he's been stationed in a lot of games recently in terms of really trying to get that net front presence and go into the areas you need to in order to score goals. And even after, being held off the score sheet last night against Chicago, we're still talking about someone that's got 7 goals in the last 6 games here for the Boston Bruins. So, Craig Smith is the one player prop that I'd zone in on in terms of scoring a goal tonight. We'll see who's in net for Boston. You'd expect it to be Jeremy Swayman. It just hasn't been confirmed yet after Allmark got the start last night. Cam Talbot will be in net here for Minnesota in this game. I right now I lean Minnesota for a small bet here, as well as the over, which is also small play for me in this game. Again, we look at series history with these two teams. Two of the last three have gone over, and I think after a low-scoring game last night, look, not for lack of trying. The reason that game stayed under was not because it was a low event game. Certainly wasn't low event from a Boston standpoint. They had a bunch of chances as of late. The Boston in that game, 48 shots. Yeah, they only scored 2, but could have been a lot more. Fleury was great. Are you going to trust this Minnesota defense right now with the way they've been struggling, the way they've been hemorrhaging goals, the way their goaltenders, Kakinen and Talbot, have really had trouble of late and have been fighting the puck? Are you going to trust them to, keep Boston in check defensively? No. So if I had to pick which is the stronger opinion for me in this game, it's certainly over 6 than taking Minnesota minus 110. But you are talking about a Minnesota team that is now pretty much even money here at home, where they're 17-7 this year. I know they're struggling, but they've got a huge rest advantage as well, with Boston entering in on the second of back-to-back games. Minnesota's had 2 days off. I mean, these situational spots, they're not automatically you blindly bet them, but you do have to pay attention to them. And this one definitely stands out more than the rest in terms of just the edge that it is for the Wild, in terms of having a couple days to maybe recharge their batteries, work on things on practice, which apparently they've looked to do after that disheartening 6-2 setback against Nashville on Sunday night. The Predators did. They spoiled the Mikko Koivu jersey retirement night there in Minnesota. But I like the over more than the side. Over 6 here, smaller wager for me on Minnesota minus 110. And like I said, I would look at a few different player props in this kind of game. And like I said, there's a couple for Boston that stand out. In particular, Craig Smith. On the Minnesota side, Matt Zuccarello, I'm telling you, he's starting to get it going. He's got 60 points this year in 50 games. Kevin Fiala seems to be a little bit more noticeable on home ice this year. So Zuccarello, Fiala, and certainly Matt Boldy's a candidate maybe for something in the prop market tonight. Now, his spot in the lineup is actually kind of surprising, that with what he's done lately, he's not up on the top line, but he's still going to be on the second line with Gaudreau and Fiala. I could see Matt Boldy maybe chipping in as well. So Matt Boldy, goal scorer prop. I'd probably look maybe Zuccarello, Fiala, hybrid goal scorer prop, or over 1.5 points with them. And Craig Smith to score a goal for Boston. I think definitely worth a look. Charlie Coyle too. Charlie Coyle, nearly had a goal last night for the Boston Bruins. That was the one. It was Charlie Coyle that took that shot, by the way, that was called no goal. Like I said, Smith was actually screening Fleury. It was his contact with Fleury that kept that from being a good goal. Nevertheless, Coyle and Smith for Boston seem to be generating good chances, seem to be generating quality looks on net nightly as of late, and we'll see if they can keep doing that here tonight in this one. All right, next up, we've got New Jersey and Calgary. Back-to-back now for the Devils after a disappointing performance last night in a 6-3 loss to the Vancouver Canucks. They now got to face Calgary, who are minus 320 home favorites in this game. Huge number, obviously, on the Flames. Total in this game currently 6 across the board. Juiced heavily, though, so make sure you're aware of that. Calgary definitely has advantages here. Rested, better team. We know that. Obviously, last night was not the best night in between the pipes for Nico Dawes, who's actually had some decent performances in net for the Devils since he's gotten the majority of the starts. But last night was definitely not one of his better nights. We don't have a confirmation yet from the Devils who's in net. I think it was going to be John Gillies tonight against Calgary. Remember, Gillies was in the Calgary organization at one point. So I think there was some thought for Lindy Ruff that let's give the guy a chance to play his former team tonight. But John Gillies had to come in and enter the game last night against Vancouver in relief of Nico Dawes. So does that shake things up a little bit in terms of the rotation here for the Devils? We'll have to wait and see on that. New Jersey, I could see them still, maybe starting out with a little bit of adrenaline and energy and then petering out after that. I think that's definitely a possibility in my mind. And then, because that's kind of what we saw last night. They scored early in that game against Vancouver, and then as the game went on, Vancouver was starting to take control. You could definitely see that tonight, especially a second night of a back-to-backs. But I'm going to go in with the first period, both teams to score here at plus 160. First of all, you can get plus 160, even a plus 175 I see with the both teams to score in the first period at a couple other books as well. I could see the Devils surprising Calgary, maybe getting on the board early, but Calgary certainly, I think, will get on the scoreboard maybe a couple of times in this game. But no, I like both. I'm going to take a shot here with both teams to score in this one, plus 160. We'll see who ends up being in net for the New Jersey Devils tonight. But certainly in terms of Calgary, the team total's appealing. Now, again, Calgary got shut out against Colorado, so I think that if anything, that's actually going to have them very much chomping at the bit to bounce back here. Worth noting Calgary's track record recently off a loss. I bring it up because we have seen some very real performance patterns start to show up for the Calgary Flames when they've been off a loss, especially during this great run that they've had. They lost to Vancouver 7-1, February 24th. They bounced back. They beat Minnesota 7-3, and they scored 7 goals. They lost to Montreal in overtime. They bounced back. They won at Colorado 4-3 in overtime. So they scored 4 goals in that game after a loss. They lose to Washington at home 5-4. Remember, that was a spot where Calgary had played like a bunch of games, like 5th game in 8 days for them, and that was a back-to-back as well when they lost to the Capitals. They bounced back against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they won that game 4-1 and again scored 4 goals. So the point that I'm trying to make is after their last 3 losses, the Calgary Flames in their next game have scored at least 4 goals in each of those games. So that's why I kind of lean toward this team total. Again, it's kind of like the Florida game. You could pay the piper if somehow Calgary is held to 3 or less because you have to lay minus 150, minus 155 on a Calgary Flames over 3.5 here. But I'd be willing to do it. I think it's definitely the best way to bet this game for me is Calgary team total over 3.5. But I do think New Jersey could get on the board early, so I'm also going to look toward that both teams to score plus 160 first period with the Devils and the Flames as well. I'm looking around to see, most books now minus 155 is what we're looking at here for the Flames with their team total. So it's either that or you could go with regulation line for Calgary is minus 200. You can't do that really. That's too high. You could go puck line if you want. I mean, that definitely is something you could go with at minus 130, which is a little bit of a better price. But I'm going to rock here a little bit with Calgary team total over. Could the Devils get to 3? Tyler liking the Devils team total over? Potentially. But Markstrom's been good. Calgary was shut out their last game. Because they were shut out by Colorado, I think that there's going to be a pretty good performance from them, particularly defensively. It's no look-ahead spot, by the way, for Calgary either. It's not like they're playing New Jersey tonight and they've got a showdown with, whoever, Edmonton or Colorado. They're not playing it, or Tampa. They're not playing anyone like that. They're playing Buffalo at home in their next game after this on Friday night. So there is really no reason for the Calgary Flames not to be locked in and 100% focused on the New Jersey Devils tonight in this game, especially with them coming off the shutout loss to Colorado. So that's why I've just got a few concerns about what we're going to see from the Devils offensively here. Like I said, I'm going to hope that they get on the board early. I think they can, but what they do offensively throughout the remainder of the game in question for me, because you would think Calgary looking to respond after a disappointing loss. And when you look at as well series history here with the Devils and Flames, it's been all Calgary. 7 straight head-to-head wins for the Calgary Flames. And by the way, 9-4, 5-2, the last 2 in Calgary between these two teams. So obviously the Flames have had no problem whatsoever clearing 4 goals or getting to 4 goals or more against the New Jersey Devils when they've hosted them here at the Saddle Dome. So that's what I'm going to go with, over 3.5 here, minus 155. I have to lay a little price, but I'm going to go with the Flames team total over 3.5 and a smaller bet for me on that first period, both teams to score at plus 160, plus 175 even in some spots. Yeah, as far as props, I'd stick with Bratt. I'd stick with Hughes for New Jersey. And I'd probably just stick with those two because I don't think they're going to be necessarily lighting the lamp for sure tonight. Calgary, you go Lindholm, obviously, it goes without saying. Mangiapane. Definitely some good options there. There's those have been the players that have just had an outstanding run lately for the Calgary Flames. Lindholm in particular, it's been absolutely fantastic to see him playing this well, both ends of the ice. New Jersey, by the way, does have a few injuries starting to build. Pavel Zacha day to day, and Jonas Siegenthaler on the blue line also day to day. We'll see if they're able to suit up tonight for the Devils in this one. All right, final game of this Wednesday card. We've got Tampa Bay and Seattle. Lightning, Kraken in the late night finale here on this Wednesday. We've got Tampa Bay minus 280, minus 300 in some spots. And the total right now in this game currently 6 shaded to the under in this one. Definitely Tampa Bay needed a good performance. They had been struggling on this recent road trip of theirs. They lost to Winnipeg. They lost to Calgary. Definitely wasn't trending. It lost to Edmonton. So 3 straight losses for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Something, that we're not used to seeing, not something we're not accustomed to from the Lightning. But they avoided their first 4-game losing streak of the season, bouncing back and taking care of the Vancouver Canucks on Sunday night in what was a pretty solid performance there from Tampa Bay. Really complete team effort against the Canucks. They got the goals when they needed them. The team defense and details away from the puck were stellar in that game. And, of course, Andrei Vasilevsky, who, to be honest, the Winnipeg game, he looked subpar. Calgary game, he didn't necessarily play great in that game. Of course, the Edmonton game, Brian Elliott got the start that night. But against Vancouver, that was a great performance. That looked like Vasilevsky back on track again in that 2-1 victory over the Vancouver Canucks. So we'll see if they can carry some momentum forward tonight with that performance. I think Tampa Bay, I don't think is going to be in a spot where, we lost 3 in a row. We beat Vancouver. We're going to mail it in here in this final game of the road trip. They win this game, they're 2-3 on this road trip. They lose this game, they're 1-4 on this road trip. There's a big difference between 2-3 and 1-4. So I think there's still importance and incentive here for Tampa Bay to want to play well. At the same time, though, this does worry me a little bit that this could be Florida San Jose Part 2 tonight with the Lightning and the Kraken. What I mean by that is, maybe Tampa Bay's looking forward to getting home a little bit. Not Florida still got games on this road trip, but, Florida had to look ahead to Vegas Thursday night. That's their next game. Tampa Bay's next game after this final road game against Seattle, they go back home. They face the New York Rangers Saturday night on an ABC game. That's a national TV game on a Saturday night for the Rangers and the Lightning in Tampa. That's the next game for the Lightning after tonight. So, I think though, when you look at it, they didn't like the start of this road trip. They played well against Vancouver. They're certainly better than Seattle. They should take care of business, but at this time of year, that's not always a guarantee that you're going to take care of business. They did shut out Seattle 3-0 when these two teams faced off earlier this year, way back in November at Amalie Arena down in Tampa. And for Seattle, you look at their spot here. They're coming off a pretty lengthy road trip. They went through Washington, Carolina, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, 5-game road trip, which started March 5th. This is going to be their 6th game now in 11 days and off a road trip as well. So it's not exactly great bet on spot for Seattle by any stretch of the imagination, especially when you have to play a Tampa Bay team that, is certainly better than you and 2-time defending champs. For Seattle, they continue to be let down defensively a little bit because you look at this road trip, it really didn't play well at the defensive end. 5 allowed to Washington. Toronto scores 6 against them. Ottawa gets 4 goals in an overtime win. They did beat Montreal in a shootout, but not exactly a shutdown defensive effort by any stretch of the imagination. The penalty kill's really been bad. They've given up the Seattle Kraken 3, 4, 6, 8, 9 power play goals in the last 6 games. 9 power play goals allowed by the Seattle Kraken in the last 6 games. Tampa Bay's power play has actually not been firing on all cylinders lately. They have gone 5 straight games without a power play goal. On paper, you'd think with all this abundance of forward depth and skill up front with Braden Point and Alex Killorn and Nikita Kucherov and Steven Stamkos, And then you can throw out Andre Palat, on the second power play unit, the veteran Corey Perry as well. Two good power play quarterback defensemen and Victor Hedman and Mikhail Sergachev. You'd think with all of that abundance of talent on your roster, you'd have a power play that doesn't go 5 straight games without converting. But that's been the case for Tampa Bay. They have gone 5 straight games without a power play goal. So what's going to give? Tampa Bay's struggling power play, 5 straight games without a goal, or the Seattle Kraken struggling penalty kill, which has allowed 9 goals in the last 6 games, which is awful penalty killing from the Seattle Kraken. I got to think, when it's a battle of one team's weakness versus the other team's weakness, I trust the superior team to probably win that matchup, and that their weakness, they'll overcome their weakness better than their opponent will. So if you ask me who's going to win that battle tonight, I say the Tampa power play bounces back, not the Seattle penalty kill. That's what I think it ends up being. You're right. The Seattle is definitely, in terms of penalties, they don't take a ton, but when they do take them, they pay the price for them. So this to me looks like, I think Tampa Bay power play props, I think, might be a good look tonight. More than a side or you could take Tampa Bay, but again, with the -1.5 plus 100 could be an option. I don't love the spot, though. They're going back home facing the Rangers for a national TV showdown in their next game. That's not exactly bet on, in my opinion. Grubauer, by the way, confirmed in net for the Kraken tonight. Alex Wenberg day-to-day for them due to injury. And it's worth pointing that out because he's played a little bit better lately for the Seattle Kraken. He was scored in back-to-back games against Toronto and Carolina, but now injured and possibly going to miss again here. We should expect Vasilevsky in, although it hasn't been confirmed yet on the Tampa Bay side of the equation. But right now, when I look at this game here, Tampa-Seattle, I'd look more toward power play props specifically. And there are books that offer specifically power play points. And you could get even better prices with these because these are only going to cash if the player connects and scores a point with the man advantage. But obviously, there's good options. There's Victor Hedman, +160 power play point. Just one power play point against a struggling Seattle penalty kill. Braden Point, +165, power play point. Stamkos, even money to get a power play point. We know he often is as dangerous as it gets. It was shooting those one-timers from the face-off dot, much like Alex Ovechkin. So I think power play points props, if you're not crazy about betting a pregame side or a pregame total in this game, which, as you can tell, I'm not crazy about it, I'd look towards some of those power play points props that some sports books offer. Because I think this is a night where that power play, and power play, by the way, has been talked about by Tampa. John Cooper's mentioned it the last few days that we got to get the power play back on track. Well, here's your opportunity. You're playing a Seattle team giving up 9 power play goals in the last 6 games. Here is your chance to get your power play back on track. So that's what I'm looking at in this game. I do want to get involved in it. It's the late TNT game tonight, Lightning and Kraken, and I think that is going to end up being the best way to go about it. Let's maybe look for Tampa Bay to capitalize here with the man advantage tonight. They've worked on it. They know they got to try to improve on it, and now they get a chance to face one of the weakest penalty kill groups in the NHL tonight, Seattle. So the matchup does fit for them here tonight, maybe to get that power play for the Lightning back on track. And we know they have the talent for that power play. We know it's not going to be a power play that goes 7, 8, 9, 10 games without a goal. They'll turn it around at some point, and this is probably one of their best chances to do just that. All right, great stuff. That is the Wednesday card. We appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll get to best bets, of course, to wrap up the show in just a second. 130 live viewers on YouTube. Hit the like button. We're looking forward to tomorrow's show. It is going to be a massive Thursday card. Ton of games on tap. We've got 10 NHL games on the slate for Thursday. Looking forward to breaking those down and looking forward to having Brett McLean with us, our special guest tomorrow on the Thursday edition of the Ice Guys. So looking forward to that. And before we get to best bets, a reminder, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up for an account, use the promo code THPN. Of course, it is a great sportsbook here with the Hockey Podcast Network. It's tons of great betting options available with it. New customers, you can bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets It's very simple to take advantage of that. That's right. A bump in the win column for your team means free bets for you. Again, $1 on any NHL team, and you'll get $150 in free bets if they win. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you still have a shot to light the lamp. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Hockey Contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Sign up for an account. Use the promo code THPN. All right, best bet for this Wednesday card. Only 4 games to choose from on the menu. Let's see what we'll go with here. It's a tricky one tonight because there's things you kind of like, nothing you really, really love. I'm going to go Boston, Minnesota over 6. We'll go with that. Even with Swayman and net, Swayman can give up goals. Minnesota is good enough to score at home, and I think they'll be incentivized after a rough game against Nashville. But on the flip side, Boston could have had 4 or 5 goals against the Blackhawks last night. They had great offensive pressure in the O-zone, great puck possession numbers. They really moved the puck well. It was just one of those nights. They ran into Marc-Andre Fleury on one of those nights where he was absolutely scintillating in net. And that's the reason that game was even close for Chicago. I doubt we're going to get that level of goaltending from Cam Talbot tonight. We have a defense in the Minnesota Wild in front of him that is struggling at the moment, giving up goals in bunches. And I think that will open the door for Boston to find the back of the net. So TNT. Winner, hopefully, with the best bet tonight. Boston, Minnesota, over 6 for my best bet for this Wednesday NHL card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us on YouTube. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.